Hey grade 7s, so we got another math video here, and this is a different kind of one. Often there's like some basic things that you can always do in order to answer some math problems, and this time it's going to be more like a critical thinking kind of thing. So I've got some example problems here, and we'll look at them together. And in truth, when you're doing these in the textbook, you're going to just have to sit back and sometimes just think about what the logical answer is. So let's take a look here. This first one is about average temperatures. So Jack wants to know the mean average temperature for a week in January. He has the following temperatures: minus 20, minus 15, minus 18, minus 19, plus 5, minus 17, and minus 20. So what is the mean average temperature? Round your answer to the nearest tenth. So we got to find it first. The first thing that we should do is, of course, add up all 7 of these numbers. So we add them all up, and when we add them up, we get an answer of negative 104. The way that we find a mean average, of course, is to divide by how many numbers there are. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I do 104 divided by 7, and that gets me an answer of negative 14.8571. It goes on and on and on and on. It says to round to the nearest tenth, so we're going to round it to being minus 14.9. So far so good. This is very similar to what we were doing before. You add them all up, divide by how many there are, we've got our mean average. So let's make sure we got our units there. So it's negative 14.9 degrees Celsius was the average temperature in that week. What was the range? Well, the lowest of those temperatures was minus 20, and the highest of them was plus 5, which is a pretty nice temperature for January. Are there any outliers? Well, I think there definitely are. Look, all these temperatures are double-digit negative cold, and then we got that one positive. So I would say that the plus 5 is definitely the outlier in this case. So why might there be this outlier? Well, I mean, these were the temperatures, and probably there was just one really warm day. It does happen occasionally. We get positive temperatures here in Manitoba, even in January. So I think that this outlier exists because it was hot that day. So why might there be this outlier? It was hotter than normal. Now for the real question, should the outlier be removed? So when we were finding these average temperatures, when we were finding this range, should we remove this outlier? In my opinion, and we always have to think about these things logically, the answer is no, we should not remove this outlier. Yeah, this is an unusual temperature, that's true, but if we wanted the mean average for this week in January, the only way we can get it is to actually add together all the numbers from this week. So if we removed it, it would not work in this case. Even though this is an outlier and it's unusual, we do not want to. So should the outlier be removed? No. It would not make the average accurate. So you see what I mean about you just have to logically think about some of these things to get to the answer. So let's go to another one, a different example question. So this one is about my favorite condiment here. It's about ketchup. So Jen wants to find the range of prices for different brands of ketchup. She finds the following prices. So imagine you're walking through a superstore and she finds $2.25 for one bottle, $12.45 for a different one, $3.50 for another, $2.75 for another, $3 for another. So what is the range? Well, the cheapest price is $2.25. So we got a price range from $2.25 and the most expensive one is $12.45. So that would be our price range here, from $2.25 to $12.45. What's a possible reason for the outlier? So clearly this $12.45 is the outlier. So what are some possible reasons for it? The most likely reason is that these are probably small bottles of ketchup, and this one's probably either a really big one or that big 4-liter can they sometimes come in. It might even be a multi-pack. It could be that you got like a 6-pack of ketchup in this one. So what is a possible reason for this outlier? It probably is more ketchup. So that's the likely reason why that exists. Again, you have to just think about these things logically to come up with these kinds of answers. Should the outlier be removed? If so, why? What would the new range be? In this case, I think it would be fair to remove this outlier. If you can imagine that you're trying to compare different brands, maybe you got Hans, Hinz, and Heinz, and one of them is all the way up here, it would be unfair to claim that this one is so much more expensive when really it's just a bigger package of ketchup that you're getting. Of course, this is hard to know for sure unless we can actually see them, but in my opinion, in this case, I think the outlier should be removed because it is such a bigger amount, very likely, of ketchup. So I'm going to say the outlier should be removed, and I'll give what the new range is. So yes, we'll remove it because it probably is far more ketchup. Again, a fair comparison between these things would ideally be bottles that all have exactly the same amount of ketchup in them, so that we would be able to fairly compare which one's the most expensive. So what would the new range be? The new range, if we took that $12.45 away, would still be starting at $2.25, and then the new expensive one would be $3.50. Now, of course, we don't know. For all we know, this is a smaller bottle, and this is a bigger bottle again, just a slightly bigger bottle. But from the information that we've got, I think it makes sense to remove that outlier. And it's always tough to tell unless you have unless you're actually in the store comparing these things. So today's questions require a little bit more of that critical thinking, and those are examples of the stuff that you'll be doing.